Okay, hello and welcome to week 8 of Class Power and Social Inequality. This is a little bit of a free week because I noticed in the syllabus that I had sexism, misogyny, and misogynoir listed 2 weeks in a row. And I thought that instead of talking about it from the perspective of work again, since we did that last week, I would talk about sexism and misogynoir specifically in its role in over policing and class power and the relationship between those three things. So, just a little short discussion for you guys today that I thought was um, timely in its topic and interesting enough to spend a few minutes recording it. So, let's jump in with a chart. So, first of all, we know that Black and Brown people are over policed in the United States compared to white people. That means that they live in neighborhoods that are surveilled they're more likely to live in neighborhoods that are surveilled. They're more likely to be victims of stop and frisk in areas where stop and frisk policies still take place. And we have data from cities like New York City over a decade where we see these stop and frisk patterns perpetuated. Um, and the police, by extension, are twice as likely to use force against a Black or Brown person that they are engaging in confrontation with compared to a white person, which is where we lead to a lot of the additional state violence that comes as a result of that over policing. Um, Women are over policed too. And from 1999 to 2015, you can see here there was a 355% increase in women who were victims of police violence. Now, just like in men's rates of police violence, Black and Brown women are overrepresented in this percentage, this 355% rise. So, women of color absolutely being over policed just as men of color are being. Okay, this starts early at school in particular. And in this chart, you can see that Black girls only make up 34% of New York State public school enrollment, but 56% of all detentions. Um, on this chart at the bottom here, you can see that Black girls are suspended at 6 times the rate that the white girl student counterparts are as well. So they're being over surveilled and over disciplined in schools, many of which have a police presence as well. Um, who experiences police violence perpetually dictates, and the converse is perpetually dictated by an individual's class power. And when I say that, what I mean is that my class power is going to dictate where I live, which is going to dictate where I go to school, which is going to dictate how over policed or over surveilled I am. And that isn't always just cut and dry about class identity. Class power, remember, is this relationship between class identity, perceptions of status, race, gender, all of these sort of confluence of variables that work together to give us this very subjective sense of where a person fits in the class hierarchy, and then by extension, how much power they have as a result. If I don't have much class power, I'm likely to find myself in situations where I will be over surveilled, over policed, and subjected to state violence. If I have a particular identity, a class status, racial identity, I may be able to avoid state violence and over policing because of that class power, even as I engage in deviant and illegal behavior. For example, we know that Black people and white people use and abuse drugs at essentially the same rate. But Black people are arrested for drug offenses at 60% of the rate that white people are. And so we have the same behavior, but it's being punished differently based on your proximity to surveillance, essentially. Okay, um, let's look at this chart because I just said all of that. Um, and I also want to be clear that class identities does not supersede racial identity. So you can see that in this chart, rich, quote unquote, Black kids are more likely to go to prison than poor white kids, which again is about this subjective, non tangible piece of class power that doesn't have anything to do with literally how much money you have. You know, we've seen professional basketball players who are millionaires have their ankles and their legs and their wrists and their fingers broken by police in police confrontations where they were unarmed. Their status, their celebrity, their money didn't save them because class power isn't just about those things. Lastly, all of this means that class power determines your likelihood of exposure to state violence or police violence, not your likelihood to engage in deviant behavior. And if that's the case, then when we talk about policing and by extension over policing, what we're talking about is an individual's ability to use class power to avoid those things or not. It makes me think about Aunt Becky, Lori Loughlin, who was found guilty as a part of the Operation Varsity Blues scandal, and she's been given the opportunity to choose which institution she wants to serve her time out in. That is going to severely impact the experience that she has there, and by extension, how she comes out of it on the other side. Poor, women are not given that opportunity, especially poor Black and Brown women, but even wealthy Black and Brown women are not given that same kind of opportunity. All right, that's all I have for you today. Short and sweet. There's no active learning exercise because we've got election week coming up. Please rest, go vote, and I'll talk to you in week 10. Bye bye.